Hello everyone. Today I'm presenting the case study introducing the Scrum at point to point, also known as P2P. This presentation provides a brief overview of the case, followed by an analysis of the key issues, and conclude with recommendations and an evaluation of whether Agile and Scrum were suitable for these projects. To provide context, I will begin by outlining the company and project backgrounds. P2P is a large freight and logistics company. Although its IT department easily met technical requirements, projects were consistently delivered late, to the point where delays became normalized. The case focuses on the Big Food project, which aimed to develop a system to monitor P2P cardboard footprints. This project is strategically important because it supports sustainability reporting, regulatory compliance, and corporate responsibility, all of which influence P2P long-term competitiveness. With this background in mind, it is important to introduce the key stakeholders and explain why Scrum was adopted. Kendra Hoare is a software engineer working on the projects. Prem Gupta is a traditional project manager who assumes the role of Scrum Master. Isaac Smith is the product owner representing customers and end users. Scrum was introduced because senior management wanted to improve delivery speed, flexibility, and reliability. Strategically, Agile was viewed as a way to align IT projects more closely with evolving business needs. Turning to how Scrum performed in practice, the first sprint was largely successful. The team self-organized, collaborated closely, and delivered most of the planned features. They also completed additional features and received valuable feedback from users. This demonstrates Scrum operating as intended and supporting P2P's strategic goal of improving IT responsiveness and performance. However, despite this strong start, several significant problems emerged in later sprint. First, Brent began acting like a traditional project manager by assigning tasks and directing work, which reduced team self-organization. Second, Isaac changed priorities and added feature mid-sprint, violating Scrum principle designed to protect focus and commitment. Third, Agile was misunderstood as constant flexibility rather than disciplined adaptability. As a result, team morale declines and sprint outcomes worsened. Based on these challenges, several key improvements could have been made. First, Scrum roles needed to be clearly enforced. For example, when the integration problem arose, Scrum should have facilitated discussion and removed blockers rather than assigning tasks and solutions. Second, sprint commitments needed to be protected. When Isaac returned with new requirements, those features should have been added to the next sprint backlog, or the sprint should have been formally cancelled and restarted if the change were critical. Third, P2P should have invested in agile leadership training. Managers like Prem require coaching in servant leadership to support team without reverting to command and control behaviors. Finally, Scrum adoption needed to be explicitly linked to organizational strategy. For instance, sprint reviews could involve sustainability or compliance manager to ensure the Big Food system consistently supported P2P environmental and regulatory objectives. Drawing on the evidence from the case and the outcomes observed across multiple sprints, it is possible to critically evaluate whether Agile and Scrum in particular was an appropriate approach for these projects. Scrum was well suited to the Big Food project because requirements evolved, user feedback was essential, and incremental delivery created value. However, the failure was not Scrum itself, but poor implementation and a lack of leadership and strategic alignment. In conclusion, this case demonstrates that agile transformation required changes in mindset, leadership behavior, and organizational culture, not just new processes. Thank you for listening.